All right, folks, it is finally time for me to give thoughts on the CRF300L. This is a 2023 KLX300 2021. I've only had this bike for, I'm going to say, going on 2 to 3 weeks now, but I do have 135 miles on it, 2 good off-road rides. Now, of course, this bike I've had for 2 years. I purchased both of these new. This one I'm just over 2,100 miles on it. So, I'm going to try to do the best I can. I think I have a pretty good feel for the CRF. And I'm going to base this off of, I'm going to try to keep it with both bikes when they were stock. Stock gearing, stock exhaust, stock gearing, stock exhaust. We'll kind of go from there. I'm not going to get into a lot of the specs that you can look up online that you can research yourself. The retail price on this is $53.99. The 2024s on this are $61.99, I believe, for a non-ABS and a non-special edition model. I have a cheat sheet here, because I know even with this I'm still going to forget stuff, but this is going to try to help me through it so I kind of remember everything I wanted to touch on. Weight-wise, when you buy them stock, they're both right in the 305, give or take a couple pounds range. So they're not too bad weight-wise. So one thing I'll start off with here is I did do a measurement. I'm 5'10", and both these bikes I feel a little bit cramped on, seat to foot peg relationship, but I did a measurement basically from where your nuts are down to the foot peg. The CRF comes out to roughly 21 inches. And the Kawasaki is roughly 22 inches, so it does give you a little more space between your foot peg and your crotch, which I do notice that when I'm on that bike. This one, you feel more like you're on an XT250 and you're really got your knees bent and squashed down. Okay, then we'll go on to the stock bars. For me, stock bars, they're way too skinny, and they're just too easy to bend when they fall over. And they basically have the same stock bar set up when you bring them home. They're too low for me too. Both bikes, I have risers on both. These are ROX risers. Those are a Pro Taper bar riser, fat bar adapter. I believe the ones on the CRF are a little bit higher. They're probably 2 inch. Those are a little bit less. Clutch pull on these bikes. The Honda is freaking awesome. It is like butter. That Honda clutch is basically just like the feel of my KTM hydraulic clutch. KLX clutch, it is definitely noticeably stiffer pulling it in, especially if you're going to ride with one finger on the clutch. CRF hands down, way easier to pull in. Brakes, I think the brakes from the factory on the KLX, not that they're great, but they are definitely a little bit better. The stock brakes on this, you could probably change the brake pads, it's going to do a little better, but these are very vague feeling. I mean, you got to really lay on them if you want this bike to skid coming into a turn, and this is a non-ABS. Both of my bikes are non-ABS. I do not like ABS. Motor. Both of them, as far as vibration going down the highway, they're very similar. This Honda may be just a tad bit smoother as far as vibration when you're on the highway cranking 60, 70 miles an hour. Now, as far as the power delivery on this, I like the power delivery on the CRF. It has a very, very good low end compared to the KLX. And when you bring them home, bone stock, the CRF gearing, first gear is freaking awesome. I have had to change sprockets on almost every every bike I've ever owned, on-road, off-road, when I bring them home, this CRF, I would definitely be happy with never changing the front sprocket on this and going off-road, riding anywhere I wanted to, hardcore, softcore, any type you want. The KLX, you can ride it too with the stock sprocket and it'll get you everywhere you want to go, but I changed it right away. I went down one tooth in the front to help with the low end torque. I have ridden this, just my last ride that I posted, I put a 13 tooth on this, and the 13 tooth, it's not that it gives you a better first gear. I almost think the 14 tooth is a better, more responsive sprocket for just running first gear if you like to use first gear a lot. But the 13 tooth allows you to shift into second when you're in the woods or maybe in some tight stuff, and makes second more usable. Because second is not real usable on this if you're in the tight stuff with the stock gearing. But first gear is awesome. It revs out to the moon and you can use it in a broad range. But man, the motor on the CRF, the low end torque on the CRF is much, much better than the low end torque on the instant throttle response on the CRF is way better than this. The KLX kind of has a little bit of a lag, then it kicks in and the power hits you, whereas the CRF it's right away and it's instant. I mean, I love the power on the CRF. Let me look down my sheet here. Okay, suspension. That's what everybody talks about on these two, and everybody knows right off the showroom floor, the KLX is definitely better. There's no doubt about it. It's 200% better than the CRF. This is very, very soft. Now, if you're buying this bike to commute and possibly take a little trail ride once in a while, there's no need for you to change suspension. You can ride this. I rode it when I brought it home, took it up in the woods, rode it hard. Did I get to the bottom of the travel in the suspension? Yes. But do you have to worry about suspension when you bring the thing home if you're not going to ride it hard, or if you're not going to be hauling a lot of luggage on the back? No. You can buy it, ride it, and the bike's going to be fine. The KLX though, you bring it home. I'm 220 with gear at the moment, and all I've ever done with this is change a couple clickers, and this bike has been ridden hard. People still complain and say, oh, you got to change the suspension on the KLX. I don't know what the people were doing, unless they're clearing 50 footers and landing from 10 feet to flat on the ground. This bike, couple clicker adjustments, and it's been perfectly fine for me for the 2 years I've had it, no matter what type of riding I've done. But that being said, these bikes have an $800 price difference at the moment. I'm not sure what the 2024 CRF will be priced at, if it's going to go up at all. But that $800 you save on the Honda, if you want to purchase, like say, a K-Tech rear shock adjustable, non-remote reservoir but adjustable, and put the Race Tech front spring in it, you're going to get right up to the price of this Kawasaki, and so they're going to be leveled out fairly well. This suspension will probably still be a tick better, but you're going to be right there with the CRF. Alright, tires of course from the factory. For me, riding off-road, they both suck. Can you ride the tires, use them if you're a 50-50 kind of guy on off-road? Yes, you'll get lots of use out of them. Idle. There is no adjustment on the idle on the CRF. KLX, you can't adjust it. There's a knob right on the side there, and you can't adjust your idle. Just a small note. Foot pegs. KLX, got to replace them right away. Way too skinny, especially if you're a stand-up rider like me, and you stand when you're off-road 99% of the time. CRF, those pegs are actually only about an 1/8 inch skinnier than the IMS foot pegs that I put on here. So I probably will never even replace those foot pegs on the CRF. Coolant reservoirs. Of course, the KLX has the coolant reservoir over here on the side, right here below the seat. This is a weird spot for it. CRF, typical area. You have your radiator on the right side, coolant bottle on the left. KLX has radiator on each side. CRF, one radiator on the right side, coolant reservoir on the left side. Toolkits and storage, of course. KLX comes with your tool bag on top of the back fender. Very minimal toolkit. You basically got to get the bike, see what wrenches you need, and make your own toolkit. CRF, of course, has the toolkit on the side of the bike toward me, right in this area. It is actually quite large, but the toolkit consists of 2 Allen wrenches, I believe it was. And it's worthless, basically. You have Allen wrenches to take your side panels off and maybe 1 or 2 other things. It's ridiculous, but it has a very nice tool storage compartment for if you want to make your own small tool bag and put in that compartment. So definitely better storage on the CRF. Fuel gauge. Of course, KLX, no fuel gauge. Now, the 2024s may have a fuel gauge. I do not know that. As far as prior to 2024, no fuel gauge. That's why I have the clear tank on so I can kind of see where I'm at. CRF has fuel gauge, also has a gear indicator, which is nice, on the corner of the odometer, and you can also calculate your miles per gallon right off of your odometer display. If you fill in some settings, it will calculate it for you. They both display RPMs, and you can actually change the way your RPMs are displayed on the Honda display. So definitely a thumbs up to the Honda display for sure. Next, seats. They're very similar, designed very close to the same, but I will say the Kawasaki is more comfortable. My butt is kind of sensitive to hard seats, and the Honda definitely kicks my rear end a lot quicker than the Kawasaki. So much better seat on the Kawasaki, that's for sure. Oil changes, both very similar. I mean, you got the drain plug, and you have on the right side of the motor, they both have a cover for the oil filter, and of course the fill plug also on the right side. Very simple to change oil. Same with the air filters. They both have their air filters behind your side panel. Very easy to take off, very easy to change. So kind of a tie right there. Battery, both very accessible. Batteries are both on the left side of the bike, side panel off, batteries right there in front of your face. Overall power on both of them. The KLX definitely has more on the top end to me. Bottom end on the Honda is definitely much better. I mean, if you have these two bikes and you ride them off-road, you notice the low end on the Honda right away. It's much easier when you come to a log, rock, root, and you want to blip that bike up over. This one has instant response and pops that wheel right up and over. Where you have a little bit of a lag on this until it kicks in, and the power on this KLX is more of a mid-range type deal. And of course, the stock exhaust on them, the KLX is super, super quiet. The Honda is also very quiet, but it's just a little bit louder as far as that. The bikes are very similar though, but in my opinion, riding both of these bikes right now, even though the suspension is I have the Race Tech upgrade on this right now. I have $300 in the upgrade on the suspension right now. I have the front fork spring put in the left tube, and I put a Race Tech spring for my weight on the original shock. It's not the best, but it's a big improvement over stock. You would definitely want to go with probably a K-Tech or like a YSS on the rear. But that being said, everybody wants my opinion on which bike I would buy, what I prefer to ride, I'm going to say one thing right now. After riding the Honda this past Sunday, off-road, I'm going to tell you right now, even with the Race Tech suspension on the Honda, I had more fun riding the Honda with that little bit of snappier low-end power. And I know they're the same weight and basically built the same. The Honda, just to me, for some reason, feels a little bit more nimble. Now, if I'm only going to be an 80% street rider, they're really both a toss-up, but I would probably go with the Cowie if I didn't want to spend any more money and I was going to use this as maybe a small adventure bike, because you don't got to change the rear suspension if you're going to put bags and panniers on the back, because it's already going to handle it. The Honda, if you're going to throw panniers and racks and load it up, you're going to have to do something with the rear suspension on it. But I love both bikes, but I'm probably going to give the fun factor and a little bit of the off-road feel of the bike and the power to the CRF. But nobody's going to go wrong with either one of them. That's the thing. You just have to decide if suspension is an issue for you. If suspension is not an issue and you're not going to ride the bike hard, you might as well save the money and do the CRF, because the power is still there, just as good, and you get better low-end power. If you're going to be riding hard off-road right off the bat and maybe use it as a light adventure bike, and you don't want to get into throwing money into suspension, you got to go KLX. And of course, it's whatever you like to look at. You like looking at lime green, which I love, it's sweet, but I also like bright red. And of course, I already have the CRF modded up to my liking. I still have some more things coming, but I have bars up. I changed out some turn signals so far. Still have front ones coming. Probably a bigger tank. This bike is fully modded out to where I want it. I will mention too, I have no fuel controller on here, and I do not intend to put one on here. I've put fuel controllers on bikes in the past, CRF300L, WR250F, a couple other bikes, and sure, they may give you a little bit of performance, but I always ended up getting a glitch somewhere else in the power band, whether it was a dead spot throttle, hesitation, or even like a stalling at a stop sign. Something always come up there, so I'm not putting a fuel controller on here. The thing is, if you buy one of these budget bikes and start throwing all this stuff at it to get more power, you bought the wrong bike. You should have bought a CRF300L, a DRZ400, or a KTM gas or a gas 350 or a Husky. Because when you buy these bikes, you got to understand what you're buying. Otherwise, you're going to throw all kinds of stuff at it trying to get more power. Even the exhaust. I don't necessarily throw the exhaust on for power. I throw it on because, like this Cowie, I believe when I did the video on it, I think putting the exhaust on shaved like 5 pounds off the top of the bike. That's why I do the exhaust is for weight savings, and you see me put lithium batteries in them. A lot of times you can shave 10 pounds off the top of the bike between exhaust and battery, and you notice that when you're riding. So, I guess to make it short and sweet, I'm going to say for me, right now, I prefer the Honda off-road with the suspension mildly upgraded. I prefer the Cowie for on the road if I was doing some light adventure work, but this bike is, they're both just as capable off-road. You can rip this one hard and do everything you want to do. You can rip this one hard. The main thing is, right now, how you want your power delivery and suspension. Do you want to put money into suspension right away, or just get on the bike and ride it? So that's what you want to think about. But for me, if you're looking for low end, you want this. If you want better suspension, you want this. And And you can kind of work with each bike and change stuff to get them both to where they both are. And you're still going to be basically in your same price range in your pocketbook. So I think I covered everything on my cheat sheet. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. I always get back to everybody I can in the comments and answer questions or see what you're saying. So I'm going to grab the camera right now. I should do a slow walk around these two bikes just so you can kind of see what I got going on with them, and we will catch you later. Take a little walk. We'll hold it on the cowie here for a few seconds. Trying to do some little close-ups here. I'm not going over mods right now. I have a video for the KLX with everything, and once I get the Honda done, I will also do one on that. We'll pan back here on the Honda. Guys that have these will notice small things that I have done and changed and modified from stock. Take a little walk around to the other side, just to show you that. I don't know if I'll be able to get the cowie. I'm a little cramped for space here on getting a full shot of the cowie on this side. Let's see. There we go. Bring it up around to the front. There you go. Peace out.